like Israel wouldn't have even been named Israel if it wasn't for Abraham, right?
That's right.
You see, like he was actually named Israel by God Himself, right?
Yeah, he was Jacob before he was named Israel.
Yeah, right. So it all is kind of interesting how all of that works out. Um,
Mm,
and it's the whole thing of the outsider, you know what I mean, which kind of sticks to me. You'll see that commonly happening all throughout the Old Testament. Um, so that's something that really stuck out to me. Um, and another thing that I did want to bring up, which through my research, that there's a big well, there was questions that was mentioned before about Jesus, you know what I mean, and the reason why the Jews didn't accept Jesus as being the Messiah. And what I found out was that the only one of the biggest arguments that they had with Jesus not being the Messiah was because of the actual bloodline, the lineage. Now, according to Christianity, um, Mary was a virgin, and she gave birth to a child without having sex. Okay.
mm.
Now, what I found out was that the Jewish they they don't believe that that's actually an authentic lineage to the family of David, considering that she didn't have consensual sex with Joseph.
But both Joseph and Mary are from the lineage of David.
Now, I've also checked on that too, and I haven't found anything that verifies that Mary was
No,
actually.
it's straight out of the Bible. I can't remember from New Testament which book it was, but there are two versions. First chapter and second chapter uh, state the lineage of Jesus, starting with a whole bunch of begat. Remember,
Hmm.
uh, Adam begat uh, uh, this and this begat, and it went all the way down to Abraham, and then from Abraham go down forward to Jesus, 14 generations apart. Remember? And then the chapter 2 gave a slightly different lineage, also from from Adam all the way down, but it diverged at some point in the path, but it still ends up with Jesus.
Hmm.
And so the church explanation is that the first one of the lineage is from Joseph's line, and the other is from Mary's line. So people have been using that to claim that the Bible is full of contradiction, and that's one example of it. But uh, but that's what it is. So the two lineages are both true. It's just one is from Joseph and the other one's from Mary. So they are both from the lineage of David.
See, this is one reason why I think sitting down and doing a serious discussion about Ruth would be a good thing for me and you to do, because like me and you did freaking the what was it, the Amorites? I keep
Yeah.
mixing them up. It was either the Amorites or the Elamites, one of the two.
We talked about the Amorites,
Yeah. And then we did the dead prophets,
the dead
or no,
popes.
the Dead Pope Society. That's the name I gave it. But I seriously think
Yep.
sitting down and doing a show on Ruth, and then maybe throw Esther in too, because that, believe it or not, that is something that a lot of people need to freaking learn about. A lot of scholars have debated over it, because Esther not only has Jewish heritage in the Bible and stuff, but like there are tons of Persian freaking folklore about her. Like she's
Uh,
yeah, she's
then I will be learning something new then.
yeah, she's very
But yeah,
very interesting. It's not
be
not
interesting to know
yeah, not
about
just
the folklore stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, back to okay. So I don't know if you are ever going to end tonight's stream with the full of what do you want to talk about. So you're starting to talking about the pillars
right.
and the Freemasons. We need to connect them together.
Well, basically, I am connecting them. It's just you're not connecting them. You know what I
I'm going to
mean?
have to elaborate a little bit, I think.
So from Ruth ends up marrying Boaz. Boaz is very symbolic to the Jewish people. They build the first temple in Jerusalem, and they create two pillars. One of them was named Boaz, and then the other one was named Jachin. Okay. Now these pillars, they weren't structural supports. Okay. Instead, they were monumental markers, uh, and they were placed at the threshold of this temple, which is a sacred space. Now,
Which temple are you talking about?
the first temple,
Okay, the one built by Solomon.
right, Solomon's temple. Now, their placement
Okay.
at the entrance that suggests that they function symbolically, framing the transition from the ordinary world into the realm of the divine worship. Okay. Now, the text uh, also describes them as tall and ornate. They were supposed to be crowned with capitals, decorated with pomegranates and lily work. So the names assigned to them also, if you look at it, they also carry theological weight as well. So you have Jachin, and I could be saying his name wrong, but Jachin is often interpreted as meaning he establishes. Okay, while Boaz is associated with strength. So together they
Just,
express.
just
Go
sorry,
ahead.
just off a slight tangent. Am I correct in saying pomegranates have not, there's a big symbolic thing with masonry,
Mm-hmm.
pomegranates.
Yep.
Yeah.
So while Jachin is supposed to mean he establishes, Boaz is associated with strength. Okay. So together they express the idea that the stability of the temple in the kingdom rests uh, not on human power alone, but on divine establishment, and it's supposed to be also like enduring strength and stuff of that nature. At least that's what I've found out so far. Now, when Freemasonry emerged, uh, it, it it was a very speculative form, which a lot of people who, if they've read it, knows what I'm talking about. It's very speculative, and you like using that word a lot, Mark, so you know exactly what I mean. Now, this was during what we consider the modern period, okay, and it drew heavily on the imagery of Solomon's temple. All right. Now, the temple for the Freemasons, it became a symbolic framework for moral and spiritual development. And within this framework, the pillars, which were Jachin and Boaz, basically took on a different meaning than what they were originally meant. The Masonic Lodge's representation of the pillars often stood for a symbolic entrance, basically. Just like with the idea of what the pillars stood for the original first temple, the Temple of Solomon. Okay, so they're not only understood, or they aren't understood merely as like architectural figures, but they were also emblems of balance, duality, and moral grounding. Basically, is what they stood for. Now, strength and establishment became metaphors for like inner fortitude and ethical stability. Now, in ritual languages, the pillars mark a passage from ignorance to enlightenment, which also echoes the biblical image of entering sacred space. You know, so that's where the Freemasons came up with that. But it is important to note that Freemasonry, they don't claim like direct historical continuity with like the ancient Israelite temple. You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of people jump to the conclusion about. They believe that the Freemasons actually claim like some direct lineage to the Temple of Israel, but they don't. It's just used. They just use the temporal narrative as like an allegoric structure. So the pillars serve as like teaching tools, not as objects of worship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, what do you say on the whole thing about sacred spaces, Tan? I know you heard that.
I got dropped out halfway, so I heard only the tail end of what you were saying.
Okay,
Well,
so
sacred places. I mean, in the church, there are places that consecrated for worship. So
now, what do you think about my comment about the pillars? The pillars mark a passage from ignorance to enlightenment. Have you heard of that kind of language before?
No.
Okay.
That sounds like something out of the biblical traditions.
Right. That's actually
No, something outside of the biblical traditions.
now, the biblical image of entering sacred spaces is actually what that represents. I mean, that's exactly what it represents. Like
this is the Freemasons teaching, is it?
No, that's just the way. That's what those pillars actually stood for, not just.
Well, who tell you that? Who told you that's what it stood for?
It originally meant that in the Jewish tradition before Christianity.
Where?
The pillars of the Temple of Solomon, Boaz, and Jachin. That's exactly why they put them up